Well, in a studio like this, it's kind of a different answer than it would be in sort of more typical analog studio. To best answer your question, we need to look at the sort of historical role that a tape machine would have played, and then its current role in a modern studio. Through the history of tape machines, before digital came along, the goal of a tape machine was to give you back as close to what you put in as possible. The idea was to perfection, fidelity, right? And tape machines weren't particularly good at that, at least at the beginning. And so all of the technological advances came along to enhance that, like fatter tape, wider tape, and faster tape speeds. So this is running right now at 15 inches per second, but most modern tape machines would run at 30 inches per second. And the idea there is that you're getting more data on the tape because it's wider and faster, and that drops the noise floor and increases the fidelity. But now, where we have digital, which is the ultimate in giving you back exactly what you put in, the tape machine's really changed its role. And I think of the tape machine here as kind of a very big physical plug-in, and its job is not to give me back what I put in, but to add a certain mojo, a certain EQ and gooey goodness that you can't get out of a digital recorder. So the role is really completely different, and now where, in the history we were trying to undo the limitations of tape, now we're trying to capitalize on those limitations and maybe even exaggerate them for an effect. If we want something pristine, we don't go near tape. But if we want that kind of, chewy goodness, this is the puppy. And so in doing that, you've probably heard lots of stuff about tape calibration, which is about how essentially how loud the signal is going into the tape and the effects that has on the chemical nature of the tape, and then what that does to the playback. And running it again at 15 rather than 30 is all sort of backwards, in the sense that we're kind of going against the grain, the historical grain, trying to use this as an effect, and therefore trying to exaggerate or accentuate the weaknesses, or what were considered weaknesses, of tape. When is easy because it's the last step. So if after we've mixed the track, using all the tools in the analog world and some in the digital that we choose, essentially the last step is to decide that this might be something that would benefit from tape. I'll get into that in a sec. And then you just run the mix onto the tape and right back off. So it's not even like you record to the tape, it's like a pass-through. And then you re-record directly into the computer. So it really is like a plug-in. It's just a physical plug-in. And what we usually do is we'll do a pass recording with the tape and a pass recording without the tape, and then we'll level match them so we're not being fooled by differences in volume, and A/B blindly between those to decide which one wins. And for the right sort of material, the tape very often does win. Tape, again, provides a color. It's like a flavor, and there are certain times when that's the right thing. So if you're doing a heavy rock band, oftentimes the tape just gels it together. There are some specific EQ changes that happen with tape, particularly in the low frequencies and in the low mid frequencies, and again also in the very high frequencies you tend to have a little bit of a roll off there. So it works really well for that kind of music. Sometimes it works for EDM, but often not so well for EDM, and part of the reason for that is that you lose some of the sharpness of transients, right? They kind of get a little mushed on the tape, and for a lot of the EDM stuff, people are expecting things to be very sort of sharp and digital sounding, and also because a lot of EDM has really super low bass, and you lose some of the super low bass even though you have an accentuation of the upper bass. Now, just for clarity's sake, the machine tends to accentuate bass in the range of 80 to say 120 hertz, but a lot of the stuff that's going on in the EDM world is down or between 40 and 60, possibly even lower than that. Because it's designed to be played in the club where these huge subwoofers can actually reproduce that. It's also part of the reason that a lot of EDM doesn't sound all that great when you listen on earbuds or in a car, because those systems just cannot handle what's really down there. And there may be nothing much above that level for you to listen to. So in summary, here at Digital Bear Entertainment, we think of this lovely beast as basically a giant physical plug-in. We use it to add color to signals that benefit from the kind of harmonious distortion that you get from tape.